Catus, Maximus here. Got a review of this little Franklin M10 stud sensor, and to tell you the truth, I like this better than the Zircons. The Zircons are designed in the USA and produced in China, where surprisingly enough, these are made in USA with global components. One thing that I thought was neat, my cat hates being on video, is it will detect cats. Look at that. So you can use this as a cat detector. I also really like the fact that versus, say, the Zircons, and let me turn off the light here, is the Zircon, there's only a couple that actually have backlit display. Even though the display is pretty trick on these, it's not that easy to read until you get to a point to where it actually is lighting up and telling you where the stud is. These are capacitive. That's why they work when you put your hand. It's just the same thing that your cell phone screen uses, only your cell phone has an amazingly high. These are literally 1 pixel. Versus the Franklin, much brighter, much easier to see, and much more simple. The other thing I did appreciate about this is the Zircons have always used these felt pads, which I can understand, but the Franklin uses like computer mouse material, much slicker material, and it's actually a lot easier to use. And on top of all that, with the Zircons, they use 9-volt batteries, which are a little bit more expensive, a little bit more difficult to come by. Electronics use 9-volt batteries because it's easier to design electronics with a higher base voltage, because then the whole system doesn't have to be quite as efficient because, well, I shouldn't say maybe efficient, but it's easier to have a higher voltage and then use resistors to drop it down rather than to make a system that really works well at a lower voltage. That being said, the Franklin works fine, and it uses AAAs, which are a heck of a lot easier to deal with and find. So let's take a look at how well this works. Okay, we got a wall here. I have a magnet that's on a screw, which I believe is like right on the very edge of the stud, because I've used multiple stud sensors and none of them line up right under this magnet, so I assume the screw is off. But like this Zircon, it does beep, but you got to go pretty slow. It actually has quite a bit of friction, so it's kind of hard to slide. And if you don't have really good light, then you're not going to really be able to see the screen. And the second thing is, and I've noticed about this unit, is that it doesn't always beep. And you can kind of see it's just a little funky. There we go. And I was noticing that the Franklin here just seems to work a lot better. Just run it. It's just super bright. Really easy to see. As soon as you are coming up to it, it actually makes using one of these much more viable, because it's just boom, there you go. Not something funky like this where you're having to hold it, go really slow, because it tends to be a little bit too sensitive, hard to see screen, and the fact that it kind of jerks around because you got to hold these flat against the wall. And see, like the Zircon, I mean, we're in the center of the stud, but for some reason it's deciding that it doesn't want to beep. And so I really like some of these Zircons, but I've been noticing that they are more frustrating, and so that's why I decided to try an American-made Franklin. And for just a basic stud sensor, this is everything you want. It works well, it's responsive, it's easy, it glides easily, and has a very bright, just super simple, super easy to read display. And so that's really my opinion. If you just, I mean, these stud sensors in standard wall houses with standard 3/8 sheetrock and timber framing, these don't work through lath and plaster and a variety of other materials. And certain walls in apartments, say the walls that separate other apartments, those can have 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch sheetrock. Sometimes they'll put plywood and then sheetrock as sound deadening, and it makes any of these capacitive type of stud sensors not work quite as well. But in many situations, they're great. And all the fanciness of having LCD displays and all that kind of stuff, in reality, doesn't mean anything. You just want something that glides smoothly. You can find batteries for it pretty easily, and it's just super simple and easy to read. And yes, it does auto-calibrate. If I put it on my hand and then turn it on, what it does is it essentially zeroes on whatever the level is. But now if I put my fingers, it will only go up to a level 2. Sometimes it won't even pick it up at all because it's already zeroed out. But if I hold it out in the free air and then calibrate it, we can see it easily picks up my hand. And it doubles as a cat detector. Anyway, really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.